Hello and welcome to Instant Transmission, a podcast where we discuss everything Dragon Ball and who makes Goku's uniform and how rich is that man? Dude goes through like a uniform a week. Tonight, we're taking a step back from review and kicking it back and relaxing. We're going to be picking our techniques and designing our very own fighters on this episode of Pick 3 Dragon Ball Z. I'm your host, Dayton, and once again, I'm joined by my co-host, Todd.
Hi.
And like I said, tonight, Todd and I are doing things a little bit differently as we each pick 3 techniques to build our very own personal fighting kit within the Dragon Ball universe. We're going to take turns laying them out, going over our fighting styles and strategies, and just kind of having some fun here. With all that covered, would you like to go ahead and take things away, Todd?
Yeah, well, I guess we'll dive right into it, and I will start with how I built my fighter for the Dragon Ball universe. So, we'll start with techniques. We each got to pick 3 techniques. So I think the first one, I'll go in kind of like the order of what makes sense here in terms of the fighting style. So for my fighter, the first technique that I picked is probably one of the most overpowered techniques in Dragon Ball, and that is the namesake of this podcast, the instant transmission.
I was wondering if you're going to go with it because there's so much utility to that, man. Like, if you want to exist in the Dragon Ball universe, having that is just such a clear advantage.
It's very funny. Like, I was kind of on the fence about picking it because in terms of that technique existing in the Dragon Ball universe, I hate it. I actually don't like it at all. But because it does exist, there's, like you said, it has so much utility. Really, if I could use instant transmission in the real world, I think we've talked about this before, but just being able to like teleport to different countries or teleport to work or to see a friend, all of that is compelling with instant transmission. But in this case, in terms of building a fighter, being able to teleport without them being able to like detect where you're at exactly, and being able to teleport vast distances too is, yeah, truly it's an overpowered technique. It is gives you mass advantages over your opponent,
And it's one of the few techniques that have like more than just dealing damage, right? If you're in a situation where you're not the main character, but someone else is the main character, you can still add value, right? You can move that character around, you could assemble the crew. It's one of those techniques that, like, even if you're not as strong as you need to be, just by having this technique, you're instantly useful.
That's actually a great point, and side tangent, but something that would be great to see in Dragon Ball, but instead we have the main character who has it, who doesn't use it too much for utility, even though he has some cool moves with it for sure. But yeah, it would be great as like if you want to say like a support role in a fight as well. If you wanted to, like you said, move the main fighter out of the fight, move the bad guy into an unfavorable position, or collect the troops. All of those are really great ideas for utility for this one. So I mean, when you're talking about techniques, especially if you're picking top 3, it's really a no-brainer, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, and it fits in any kit. Whatever your fighting style is, whether you're like Ki Blast, whether you're like hand-to-hand combat, whether you're like, big wombo combos or huge, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. This technique is useful in every kit.
Yes, 100%. I'm also kind of going on the assumption that we don't inherently have like super speed or flight or super power. So if I can't fly or run incredibly fast, being able to teleport is really the better option, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it solves so many problems. I dig that because we're really limited. When you have to pick only 3 techniques that you can use, you got to be creative. And having one that gives you a lot of creative freedom is definitely a strong choice.
Yes, 100%. And as I reveal the next techniques here, people will probably start to see how this package is coming together. But moving on to my second technique for my fighter, I chose the solar flare.
Oh man, double utility pick. Super interesting. All right. So right off the bat, my feeling is that like between the ultra or I'm sorry, the instant transmission and the solar flare, you can like teleport in front of people's faces, blind them, teleport behind them. Like you have so much control over your opponent at that point that you can kind of pick and choose your engagements as you choose.
You read my mind for the most part. That's like, I mean, if you can teleport where you want and then blind somebody. Occasionally, the solar flare is difficult to use because of positioning and things like that. But if you have the instant transmission on top of the solar flare, you can position yourself however you need to blind your opponent. And even if I'm weaker than the person that I'm fighting, if I can get out of the position, blind them, and then kind of take advantage of that scenario, it gives me a lot of opportunities to, I mean, either save myself, save allies, potentially harm the enemy that I'm fighting if they are blinded. Um, there's there's just lots to do with those two techniques combined together, I think.
And on top of that, I like for some reason I don't remember when it exactly happened, but there's that one scene where somebody goes to use the solar flare knowing that their opponent knows what that technique is. I think it was Krillin when he was fighting Goku, training for the Tournament of Power, where he goes like he's going to use the solar flare, knowing that Goku is going to defend against it, and uses that feint to like create an opening. Like there's so much cool stuff that's around that because it doesn't matter the power difference between those two. You have to respect the solar flare.
Exactly. And that's a great point. And yeah, you're right. Krillin uses it as a fake out, and to get like an advantage where Goku closes his eyes. So yeah, you can use it as a feint. It's I think for both of these techniques, part of what you just expressed too is that power doesn't matter much when it comes to these two techniques. They're still going to be useful and valuable in one way, shape, or form, regardless of power levels here, which is part of what I'm thinking about. Again, I'm considering like I don't automatically get superpower and strength and all that. So I'm keeping that in mind when building this fighter. Uh, I think, unless you have anything else about that, Dayton, we'll move on to number 3 here. Uh, so this is what's going to kind of tie this fighter together for everybody, I think. So with my 2 utility techniques, my third technique is the Destructo Disc.
Ah, okay. I was wondering when the punch was going to come in. And for the most part, the Destructo Disc is also a technique that scales really well. Unless the power differences are insanely different, as we've seen with like Cell. The Destructo Disc cuts through just about everything. And I mean, you've got 2 techniques that are all set up, right? I can be where I need to be. I can like control my opponent, turn off their defenses, and then I've got a technique that cuts through everything, right? Am I on the right path here?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, truly, I'm ripping off your boy Krillin here, but just giving him one extra piece that would make him an even better fighter. But as we've seen, like you said, the Destructor Disc scales quite well. Even Krillin against Frieza, who is multiple times more powerful than Krillin, Frieza still had to dodge and avoid the Destructo Disc, and Krillin still cut Frieza's tail off with it. So I mean, if Krillin really used the solar flare and the Destructo Disc together, he would be super nasty, and we almost never see him do that. Obviously, because it's kind of an overpowered combo, really. And then add the instant transmission to that, where the person that you're fighting doesn't know where you're going to be in order to either execute the solar flare, or you could solar flare, then teleport again and throw the Destructo Disc from a completely different angle that they aren't thinking to dodge or avoid or block. So I don't know that my fighter is really a fun fighter, but certainly an efficient and effective fighter. I'll say that.
It's definitely a fighter that understood the assignment, right? Like it's if my goal is to eliminate my opponent, this is a damn great way to do it. It's an attack that can't really be defended against effectively. An attack that shuts off their defenses, so you're doubling down on that. You can't stop my attack. and then whatever angle you want, you have access, and that's what instant transmission gives you. It gives you access to whatever the best angle of attack is. You've got it. And I mean, one of my thoughts with like solar flaring someone and then hitting them with the destructo disc is that if you blind me, I'm probably knowing roughly which angle you're going to attack me from, and I might fly in a different direction, right? Now I can't get away. I can't just fly away from you because you can be there and just launch another one. And we've seen the destructo disc also evolve over time too, where it can break into multiple ones, or you're controlling them and they home in. Like, how are you supposed to dodge a homing destructo disc if you're blind?
Yeah. Yeah, if you throw multiple homing destructo discs and you're like you said, you're able to teleport to like cut people off if you need to, while they're blinded. Like, I mean, the combo of those three to me, when I was thinking about the techniques, I was like, this is a nasty combo. This would be very, very effective. And it all too is it leads itself to like a purely ranged fighter, which again, if I don't have superpowers and super strength and can't take punches from fucking Frieza planet destroying level people, I want to be as far away from them as I can when I engage them.
Yeah, you're less likely to get hurt if the problem is all the way over there.
Yeah, exactly. So I was kind of taking that part in mind for how I would build my fighter as well. But yeah, I think it would be pretty nasty together. I think we need to give Krillin the instant transmission.
Oh yeah, he needs that tune up. And I've also got to tell you, after hearing your fighter laid out, I don't think my fighter stands a damn chance against your kit here. I think you just mop the floor with me.
I'm really curious to hear what yours is. I was kind of wondering if if we would have any overlap, and then two, how much overlap we would have, because we're only selecting 3 techniques.
You know what? I'll tip my cards just a little bit. We actually have no overlap in our techniques.
That's wild. I'm excited now to hear what you have. I don't know that I have a whole lot more to talk about. I mean, I'm going under the assumption like we might not even be able to do martial arts. We didn't discuss that specifically.
We didn't think this out like heavily. It's just we're kind of putting some cool stuff together and explaining how it works. But also, once we're done going through mine, let's do some honorable mentions too, because there's definitely like a bunch that I had looked at that I had considered that I think we should go through.
There were a lot I was thinking about too. Yeah, I definitely want to do that. But I don't know that I have a lot more to say about mine. Do we want to shift over to yours?
Oh yeah. So I went and like I don't know if this is a technique or a form, but I think it's a technique. But my number one that I would get, and I still think that this is one of the coolest techniques in the show, is Tien's Four Witches technique, where you have extra arms grow out of your back. I think that shit is so cool.
It is a really cool technique. It's so unique in the Dragon Ball space, and I mean, it has it kind of like instant transmission. It has practical applications of just having 4 arms and being able to do more things. But I think we even see in the fight with Tien where he basically like grabs Goku with some like 2 arms grab Goku's arms and then 2 other arms pummel the shit out of him.
Yeah, and the one thing I was thinking about with this technique is that I think this is not one that's on its face strictly like good. And I say that because it's not like those arms are thinking autonomously. You're still controlling them. And so when you're doing martial arts or fighting or whatever, you have to take into account what all 4 of your arms are doing. But with that, it's not something like, say, multiform or something where you're dividing your power level for those extra sets of hands. It seems like you keep all of your power, but you get extra arms to work with. So it's kind of like this. It is strong, but it's also one of those ones where the more you train with it, I feel like you get much more benefit out of it than you would something like the multiform I had mentioned. I feel like there's a lot of ceiling to this technique.
Along the lines of what you're saying, one of the things that gives this technique an edge is that if you have this technique, while you do have to think about what your other arms are doing, you're training to do that. Whereas nobody is training to fight a person who has 4 arms.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah. The kind of fighter, the kind of opponent that you're presenting yourself as is not something people are really ready to go up against. So I didn't even think about that kind of opponent or being that much of a challenge for your opponent just in and of itself.
Just I mean, naturally, yeah, there's some like alien and monster creatures in the Dragon Ball universe, and sure, our fighters have to adapt, but you are naturally presenting yourself as an opponent that most people, most fighters will not know how to approach it. They immediately are on the back foot and having to adapt because it's something unique to fighting in general.
Well, you ready for me to add another cog to this machine?
Oh yeah, I'm real curious what this combo is going to look like.
So on screen form, this technique was actually first premiered by Salsa from the Cooler's Revenge movie, but in the manga, it was Vegito's signature move that he used against
Oh,
Boo. I'm
I'm
going with the
excited.
energy blade or spirit sword, depending on what you want to call it. So, do you see where I'm going with this?
If you get 4 spirit swords, that's fucking awesome.
I don't know how effective this is, but being Goro with energy blades sounds like a pretty badass setup to me.
Hi, yeah, you are fully General Grievous from Star Wars at this point.
Actually, I have a note down here that if android body was an option, I would just be General Grievous, but I don't think that's a technique.
Yeah, I mean the spirit sword's super cool too in that I mean you see Vegito at least extended out to who knows how long, hundreds of feet. I don't know that there's a limitation on the length. Like, can you extend it to the point where you could just slice a planet in half? Like, it's a wild technique.
Well, and just like the energy disc, or destructo disc, it there's like this scalability that we don't really see the full extent of in Dragon Ball. Like I would love to see these techniques explored even more because they always give you like an inkling, right? Like we have this technique and then we evolve it a little bit. You're like, oh, that's so cool. Like I wonder where else it could go. And then they almost never do it. I feel like with something like the spirit sword, there's a lot of fun you could have with that. Like, can you make the blade bend? Like, can it go around people's guard and stuff like that? And on top of that, I feel like there's some quality similar to the Destructo disc. Where I feel like spirit blades cut through a lot of stuff. Like, I feel like they're pretty deadly. You don't see very often that people catch the blade on the edge of the spirit blade. You might see, I think, no, I was going to say I can't think of a time where a spirit sword was ever really caught. It's a technique that's used so rarely.
Like when Salsa uses the equivalent of it, Piccolo catches his arm at the wrist, which is like below the blade. He deliberately avoids touching the blade. So I think that's a clear indication that the blade is quite deadly.
But like the idea of having forearms with spirit blades on them or spirit swords, and then you might be able to control the length of them so your attacks are coming in from different ranges and different angles.
Whew.
Like I said, this is complicated for me to learn as all hell, but I feel like if you could learn how to use these two techniques together, it gives you so much agency to control your opponent in the fight. Mind you, I don't have instant transmission, so I'm just standing there waiting for you to come to me. But it's pretty cool once you get there.
I mean, yeah, the like we said, the range of at least we're talking like 100 feet plus, bare minimum, from what we've seen from Vegito. So like, it's got some range. I like the idea of like, especially if you can like kind of shoot it out, and then if they go to like block or defend, of like bending it around like full on wanted bullet style, just like curve the blade around people's defenses and stuff. And then to say nothing of the fact that like if you just cut from multiple angles with fucking 4 arms, like how do you defend against it? It is very much, at least from what we've seen, akin to like the Destructo disc in that it has very high cutting power in the Dragon Ball universe anyway.
And I don't know if we have access to just regular key blasts, but having an extra set of arms firing, from range or firing key blast while, two arms are using sword. There's a lot of like interchangeability between the sword and the rest of the kit, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, again, we didn't discuss specifics about like martial arts or key blasts and stuff, but if you could add that on top of it, that gives you even more versatility. That's a big
Well,
threat. I like it.
I think the third one's gonna make this go off the rails. Are you ready for it?
I don't even know what the fuck you would add to this, so I'm real
Oh,
curious.
what you add to this is the another signature move from another character in Dragon Ball. This is the one that I consider to be the signature move of Go Tanks. This is the Ghost
Oh,
Kamikaze attack. And I picked this because it looks like your Ghost Kamikaze attack dudes can learn the techniques that you use.
yep.
So now you've got an army of little ghosts with 4 arms and 4 blades themselves that are running around lawnmowering at people that if you touch, they explode.
Fuck. I like this a lot. Yeah, because we've seen the kamikaze ghosts. We've seen them use was it the Gallic gun? They've blasted out key blasts before. I forget what other techniques they've used, but we've definitely seen them use multiple techniques from Goten and Trunks. And if they can get the 4 arms and 4 spirit swords, yeah, how do you fight that? I don't
And
even
this
know
is
what
the
you would
only
do.
real like reach that this kit has is that if somebody's playing keep away and flying and I can't get to them, the ghosts have the ability to fly and move at speed and potentially give this kit some ability to reach out and touch an opponent who's trying to play a little bit further away, a little bit more range game. It's not a great option, but it's something because otherwise, I don't know if I have flight. I definitely don't have teleport. It's just me and some blades and a bunch of ghosts who have blades.
I think it is a great option. I think that as far as a range technique goes, it's much more versatile than say a key blast or even really like the Kienzan, the Destructo Disc. Because it's an offensive ranged attack in itself, in that you can just send ghosts at somebody at range and they can explode, but your ranged attack has its own attacks on top of that. So
And
it's
weirdly enough, part of the reason why this felt like it worked so well for me is if I have 4 arms that all have energy blades out of them, I don't want to be using techniques that require my hands. And you
yeah.
spit the ghost out of your mouth. So it's a technique that you can use while you're using your energy blades.
I that didn't even occur to me, and that's fucking brilliant.
Because I thought about because Raccoon has the one attack that he uses from his mouth. I forget what it's called, but I thought
Eraser
about doing
gun, I
something
think.
like that. Yeah, the eraser gun. I thought about doing something like that, but I was just like, it's just kind of a key blast, even though mouth blasts are always cool. Like I
Yeah.
want something with a little bit more substance to it. And I think you were kind of looking at like the similar idea of you don't want just like a key blast. You want something a little bit more, I don't know, interesting.
Yeah, like I mean, when you think of techniques, the Kamehameha is of course one of the first ones that comes to your mind, right? But it's just a beam. It's just a blast. Like, yeah, Goku uses it in some cool ways with his feet and bends it and a few other things. But I mean, if we're talking about lethality, like effectiveness, something like the Spirit Sword or Destructo Disc is going to be higher on my list anyway. Um, and then again, like you said, for the Destructo Disc, it's also versatile and it's got homing. It can split. The fucking Ghost Kamikaze is even more versatile than both of those, though. Once you start layering your other techniques on top of it.
Yeah, like the idea of, if you're overwhelmed, just spitting out a bunch of ghosts and having them run cover while you get out of dodge, like it gives you something to do. Because I think if you run a kit that's all, damage, it's all blasts and attacks, you might find that you don't have the utility to deal with uncertain problems. Because sometimes the answer isn't just brute strength, even though usually it's brute strength. But
Eh,
sometimes it's technique, it's experience, it's training. But if all you have is just raw power, if you meet someone who has more of that raw power, it's just an instant loss. That's at least the way I look at it.
yeah, I think that's what I was trying to consider with my kit as well. I will also say to even add more to your kit here. I think I sent you, this has been a while ago, I sent you a fan animation of Dragon Ball where Gotenks, or actually it might even be, I think it's Trunks, uses the Ghost Kamikaze technique, but he uses it in a way that the ghost doesn't have like the ghostly appearance. It just looks like him. So he uses it as like a duplicate or a decoy. And then when the opponent engages with it, the ghost turns into his ghost form and detonates. So you could use it as like you can use it as a way of like, if technically that's not canon, but if we're, moves can be adapted and stuff. So if you can use it that way, you can use it to get away from somebody as like a decoy. You can use it as like a misdirect. There's infinite possibilities when you start to add things onto it like that.
And I mean, I definitely have some criticisms of that technique. Like, it kind of doesn't really like make sense if you really start thinking about how it works. But that's exactly why I chose it. It's an option that's in the universe. It's fun. It does interesting things, even though logically it doesn't make any sense. Of course, I'm going to use that damn thing because I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. I feel the same way about Ultra Instinct. Of course, I'm going to take that, like, if it's on the table, because I can move around. I can go wherever I want. I can teleport solar flares into their face, then cut them in half. Like, that's pretty rad.
Yeah. The Ghost Kamikaze, it's one of my favorite techniques in Dragon Ball, and part of it being that it's developed by a child, so it has kind of that like child whimsy and just weird, almost nonsensical world breaking mechanics to it. But it's also just so unique and fun. It When I was coming up with like I kind of started with instant transmission and solar flare, and then I was trying to think of like what would be my offensive technique, and Kamikaze was on my mind, but I felt like the Destructo Disc would fit a little bit better. I think yours, though, it fits well with the kit that you developed.
I mean, it is interesting subbing in Kamikaze into your kit because now you have potentially teleporting ghosts that explode
Yeah.
and teleporting ghosts that can solar flare people, so you can safely get the solar flare off at that point.
Yeah.
I do think the one issue I think with that attack is I don't think it's one of the hardest hitting attacks in the Dragon Ball universe. Like that Destructo Disc definitely punches way further above its weight than Kamikaze does.
I think that's why I ended up going with Destructo Disc over Ghost Kamikaze, because it was definitely like it was on my mind. I was considering it, but it would be cool to have like teleporting ghosts who can solar flare, but then the only offensive technique you have is them exploding. And it can be strong-ish if you have a bunch of them together that we've seen. But even then, I think the Destructor Disc is just more powerful. But you've got the Spirit Sword to add on top of that.
I'm just yeah, actually, yeah, our logic for Spirit Sword and Destructo Disc is pretty close. This is a technique that punches above its weight. So I know it's gonna be useful in a lot of situations against a lot of opponents. And when you have a shallow kit and you're not the main character, you need something to work with.
Yes. Yeah. I think I got a lot of my I feel like I got a lot of my versatility mostly out of the instant transmission, and then you got a lot of your versatility out of the Ghost Kamikaze.
I think this is probably a good time to go into some of the honorable mentions because there's a pile that I had looked at, and some of them are pretty iconic. Like, I was really looking at the after image because I like the idea of leaving that image out for bait and then coming in with the four swords. That feels
Yeah.
very strong. And it's also one of those ones that has the utility of buying me time to get away or opening up that opportunity, like I said, for the swords. I just feel like, man, I wish it was more like the Tenkaichi Budokai games where it was a bunch of charges of free dodges that would just save your ass from attacks. That would be even better. But the Kamikaze I felt like just offered more utility.
I think so. And like we talked about, you can kind of use the Kamikaze in a similar fashion to the after image. So yeah, that one was on my mind a little bit, but I quickly like set that one aside. Let's see some of the other ones that I was thinking on.
I was wondering if you were going to take anything from Hit's kit, like the time skip or anything like that.
That was so close to making my list. That and Ghost Kamikaze were like, they were probably my number 4 and 5 basically. Um, time control is, I mean, very versatile, very powerful.
I mean, it's another one of those ones that just infinitely scales, right? Like,
yeah,
like if your opponent's way more powerful than you, unless they can like, well, unless they're the main character or they're like infinitely more powerful than you can get away with time skip. You can get out of dodge. You can find an opportunity. It really makes the playing field like completely unlevel.
yeah, 100%. And it's basically just a better version of Goldo's like time freeze technique, which is also like we saw Goldo, about to beat Gohan and Krillin, who are effectively stronger than him. It's it's very powerful. I think I ended up going with mine just because I kind of, I guess you could maybe swap it out for my solar flare, and it might be better actually. But it kind of, it's the same sort of purpose, I guess, in some ways.
It's tough because it's got a similar feeling to it, but it also kind of makes your kit play a little bit differently.
Right.
I don't know how the Destructo disc would work. Like, can you launch it during your time skip? Like, what? I don't know the specifics about this.
I think that was actually my hesitation with the time skip. Like if let's say I did swap it out for the solar flare, uh, I the way I understand Hit's time freeze anyway is that you might be able to. I guess in my mind, because most of Hit's
If you
techniques
can
are
cut someone in half while time is stopped, then that's broken. You beat the game. You solve the puzzle.
right. I think the way that I'm thinking about it is that once you launch a key blast in the time freeze, the key blast stops.
Oh, I believe that. Yeah, that sounds way more balanced. So we're gonna go with that patch.
That's what makes sense to me, especially because if you think about it from Hit's kit, anything that he does once the time freeze is active is all punches and melee stuff. So you'd think if he could use a ranged technique, he would, but he doesn't. So I'm going to assume that a key blast once launched is frozen.
Yeah, I honestly I do buy that because it's once that key blast like isn't a part of his body anymore, it's a separate entity and is subject to the time freeze. So yeah, it is a cool technique though. Like there's so much power into that. If you were going, I mean, honestly, how does that work with my spirit blades? Maybe I should have picked that.
Ooh, actually, yeah, it might be better for your kit. It removes some of the versatility that, like, if you swapped your Ghost Kamikaze for the time skip, it removes some of the versatility that you get from Ghost Kamikaze.
No, I'm saying swap out, say, like 4 witches for
True.
the time skip because now the ghosts are time skipping around and like.
Oh God!
can they just be like appear on your body and explode? There are so many questions. Like I feel like I, I feel like I'm trying to get as close to breaking the rules as possible over here.
I know, right? The ghosts fall into a weird like gray area because they're not exactly a key blast. Like we're kind of saying a key blast would freeze in the time skip. They're kind of like a creature, but they're also not. They're just made of key. So would they stop in the time freeze? It's hard to say on that one.
Could they even use it? Like, do they need, maybe you need a physical body for it to work? There are so many questions with this one that I don't even know if I can, I don't think I can sort all of it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Those would be a wild combo. I guess it depends on if we're trying to be like, if we're coming up with the rules here, it's like, are we saying this is how we would break the rules, or this is how the rules should be balanced? Because if it should be balanced, I would imagine that the ghosts can't use the time freeze and are affected by the time freeze.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the rule of thumb that I think we both probably came to this conclusion of. We don't want like auto win. I want it to work this way because it can never be stopped, because that's not interesting. There has to be some sort of fight, right? Like even with your like I'm going to teleport, I'm going to blind them, and I'm going to launch this attack at them. Your opponent still has options. your
Yeah,
opponent can still fight you, and that's what makes it interesting. And so I think it's not just coming up with the strongest kit, it's also coming up with an interesting kit.
exactly. Yeah, because, if my solar flare doesn't go off, if they're good at sensing energy, like there's things that the person I'm fighting can still do to beat me, especially if I can't fucking fly or if I don't have superpowers, if I just get, flicked in the forehead and my head explodes, like
Well, one thing I thought about was just like, all right, if I could have android body, and I could use 4 witches, Rocket Fist is pretty dope.
I I don't know about it being one of the best techniques, but I fucking love Rocket
It's
Fist.
hilarious. I don't know how many people you beat with that, but you do have a lot of fun along the way.
Yeah, yeah, it is one of the most fun techniques to me.
And when I was looking at a list of just like techniques, the Super Boo's human extinction attack came across my screen. I was like, how do you train for that? Do you like a little human extinction and then ramp it up later on?
Yeah, you're like, maybe I'll just kill all the bugs on the planet.
And then like once you use it, you're just like it's a one and done kind of technique. Like you do all this training, you use it one time and you're done. That's really boring. So I thought about
Yeah.
that one, but eh.
Yeah, there was another one I was just thinking about that shoot, I totally forgot. Oh, Hakai, Destruction. Was another
Oh
one that
yeah.
came to my mind. I That was on my mind instead of Destructo Disc. Again, part of my reason for not choosing it is just because it's kind of boring, and it's also kind of ambiguous how it works exactly, because it's supposed to be able to just destroy anything, but sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, that's really weird. Because I mean, it would be cool. Like if you took Hakai, I'm wondering if you can mix that technique with other techniques and have that like destructive god energy be a part of like I don't know, Hellzone Grenade or something, where it's just like a million
Ooh,
balls of destruction energy raining everywhere. Like that could be kind of dope.
that would be slick. Yeah, that would be a cool way to adapt it for sure. But just it by itself, I was like, it's either too overpowered, too inconsistent, or too boring for me, and that was kind of why I went Destructo Disc instead.
Yeah, and I mean, there's stuff like something like I don't know if Ultra Instinct is something that was on the table or not, but that just seems like a powerful like who wouldn't want that? Like I basically
Yeah,
can't be touched. So I didn't really go with it just because I don't know. Ultra Instinct is a cool idea, but it's also not necessarily the most interesting thing to me either. It sits in this weird spot of I think it's cool, but I'm not interested in having it in my kit.
I'm torn on it. Like I didn't even really consider it much because it is a technique, but it also falls into that like sort of weird category of a transformation. Um, it would be fucking dope though to be able to just like be a martial arts badass and be able to dodge and perfectly punch somebody and stuff. So it's definitely cool. It would be cool for anybody's kit for sure.
And I'm surprised we haven't even talked about Kaioken yet.
Like as much as I love Kaioken, it was another one where I was like, in the end, I like that it has a downside. Really, in this sort of build, it having a downside, well, it's a downside. But I like it narratively. In the end, it's just a power up with a downside. So I'm like, eh.
Yeah, and I think if maybe you're going with more of a hand-to-hand combat build, something like Kaioken might actually be a great technique to add to your repertoire, right? To really be able to get in there and amp it up. But both of us went with kind of, I don't know, we kind of have gimmicks going for both of our builds.
We
It's
really do.
like we aren't really fighting straight for. We're not going out there and getting fair fights. And I think Kaioken's best when you're trying to do that fair fight.
Yes. Yeah. And again, like I said, I was kind of going on the assumption that like we might not even be able to do martial arts, might not have superpowers, period. So like while Kaioken could like buff me up potentially, like if I'm a normal dude using Kaioken times 100 against Frieza, Frieza doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, Frieza could beat up 100 normal dudes, no problem.
Yeah, he doesn't care. So that doesn't help me much in that case.
Yeah, that's the thing is the power scaling has such a big role in all of this, and like I just kind of assume that there would be points where you're on par with your opponent, and there's gonna be points where your opponent's stronger than you, and you've got to be able to kind of try and compensate for those situations. And I mean, it's tough because I mean, just like the Z fighters, you don't know what you're going to be coming up against, so you got to be as prepared as possible.
Yes, 100%. And yeah, we both kind of picked gimmicks, but we also picked things that scale and can accommodate our weaknesses in other areas. Because I think really, if you and I are both normal dudes using these kits, we could still at least stand a chance against fucking superpowered Dragon Ball characters.
Yeah, the god level beings that exist in the universe, like there are going to be some opponents where it just you are so outmatched that you need something to get you out of that fight, not into it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, we've even seen from like Krillin's perspective, like the Destructo Disc, it's not gonna beat a fucking Beerus, a god of destruction, but it was strong enough to cut or potentially kill Frieza, who has power level of several million or whatever at that point. So
I mean, I love it. Solar Flare's been useful since like day one. Since the first time we saw it was useful, and almost every time it's been used, it's been useful. What a great technique! I did, man. For some reason didn't think about that one, but I'm glad you did because I'm glad we got to talk about it.
I I feel like it's underused, honestly. Like I feel like it's super powerful. And I think the reason why it's underused is because it's super powerful.
I mean, it's got to be the same way with something like instant transmission too, right? Like I
Yes.
feel like Goku does not nearly utilize that to the extent it could be.
It's like I said, I don't like it being in the Dragon Ball universe because it is too overpowered. And it's especially giving it to Goku, the main character who is already overpowered. I'm not a fan of it narratively, but if you tell me I need to pick three of the best techniques to be a fighter, I'm going to pick that one all day.
And probably to nobody's surprise, neither of us picked a generic key blast with a cool name.
They're boring, man. As and they're really not that useful or effective. Like they can be in certain situations, but they're limited in what they can do. I'll always love a good fucking Kamehameha and Gallic Gun beam struggle, but they're pretty limited.
Yeah, to me, it's just every one of those generic key blasts with a name. It just means it's a big one.
Yeah,
It's a heavy hitter, like, and that's cool. I like that exists, and it's really fun that a lot of characters have like their signature name on their move, and usually there's a cool color associated with it. But after so many years of seeing that, you want a little bit more. You want something a little bit more exciting than that. Like Kamehameha is awesome because it's one of the first key blasts that you ever see, and so that alone makes it unique.
yes, 100%. One that we didn't really talk about is like Android 17's energy shield is more of like a defensive one. Um, I don't know. I personally kind of threw that one out quickly because I was like, I'd rather, especially if I'm the weaker of the two, I would rather quickly find a way to offensively solve this fight rather than like just put up the shield and hope that I can defend myself long enough to do something. So I don't know if that one even came up in your mind.
I mean, yeah, I actually did think about it, and I had the couple thoughts of one. I'm hoping that I'm powerful enough that my shield holds, and that's a big risk factor. The other one is that we've only got 3 techniques that you can choose from. Every technique needs to be pulling double duty. Every single one of them. If you're only doing
True.
one thing, you're probably not an option. And
Yeah.
so, like all of mine are useful in more than one way. And just like your Destructo Disc not only isn't an attacking technique, but it's also evens the power level of everything that's happening. Like it scales up ridiculously. It's also a technique that grows and can do multiple things.
Right.
Between splitting and homing and all this other cool stuff. But like energy shield is just energy shield. It doesn't Like, it's not like Destructo Disc that can chop off a mountain and change the landscape and do. We've only seen Energy Shield do basically the exact same thing. The most it like transformed was, I think, 17 was able to put up multiples of them to slow down bigger attacks, which is cool. But like, I feel like instant transmission just gets you out of that attack and offers a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I basically felt the same way. There was one other one I had that I was something like I'm drawing a blank on the name now. Galactic Donut Ring, whatever Gotenks's ring technique is. I feel like that one could be like I could maybe even sub that in for my solar flare, and it would be pretty useful.
Well, you've
Did
got
that one
that.
come
You've
up?
got what is it? Frieza's pinball technique. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, I can't remember if it has a specific name, but that's another good one. I don't know if that one's unique in that it basically like blows up if it touches anything other than Frieza. So I don't know how you would combo it with other techniques necessarily, but
Well, it also feels like one that's definitely designed to be used by somebody who's more powerful than their opponent. Like, it feels like a torture technique rather than a fighting technique.
yes. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And then you also have the evil containment wave, which is just
That was an interesting one because of it's definitely power. It's definitely the kind of technique that probably scales better than just about any other technique in
right.
Dragon Ball. It's able to defeat basically any opponent. And that's a crazy powerful thing to have in a universe with gods in it, right? Like, theoretically, Master Roshi could use that technique on Beerus and quote unquote defeat him with it, because it seems like it doesn't care about the power level of the other one. It's closer to magic than it is a martial art move, if my jive with it is correct.
I would agree with that. Yeah. That one was tempting for me actually. That one was probably pretty high on my list as well because
Well, if you teleport, blind, contain, how do you fight that? Like, there's almost nothing you can do. Like, and you have infinite mobility basically with instant transmission. You have a fighting technique that does not care about the power level of your opponent, so you scale infinitely that way. And then you're able to just like blind people and make them defenseless. That is a crazy strong combo. Um,
yep.
but if your little jar gets cracked, oh, buddy, you're in for a rough time because you have no fallback plan. There's no plan B. Like, if they show up and, I don't know, yell really loud and it cracks all the jars, you're done. Like, there could be some weird loopholey stuff that could really bite you in the butt with that. So there is also risk with running that one.
That was kind of why I went with Destructo Disc. Like I feel like you could for my kit you could go either way on that. It's Destructo Disc.
Also, just to interject, Evil Containment Wave is only really good in a 1-versus-1 scenario.
Ooh, that's a great point. A lot of fights in Dragon Ball are 1 versus 1, but there's also a lot of fights that are a lot versus one or fewer, just a small group. So Destructo Disc, especially since you can do multiples and homing and stuff, and it splits, it's much better at handling groups. So that's a great point.
Yeah, I like that we've seen Destructo Disc evolve. We haven't
Yeah.
seen anything change about Evil. Maybe there's a way to evolve Evil Containment Wave to pick up like a whole group of people. I don't know.
Possible.
But it seems like it is what it is, and it doesn't really change. So I like the flexibility of Destructo Disc to work in more situations and to evolve and be a technique that you could work on and master as a martial artist or a member of the universe. But there's definitely a strong argument that Evil Containment Wave might actually be a better choice.
It's better scaling. I think it's better scaling than Destructo Disc. I think that there
Destructo
are
Disc is
more
more fun though, so go with that.
that was one of the reasons, but you make a good point about groups. Destructor Disc is better for groups, and then the some of the negatives about the Evil Containment Wave were part of the reason why I went with Destructor Disc as well, because it's hard to perform sometimes if you miss the bottle. We've seen that happen. If the bottle gets cracked, like there's lots of little caveats that could just go wrong with that one that I was like, I'd rather have more of a. I feel like Destructo Disc, at least combined with like Solar Flare and stuff, is more of a sure thing. Maybe.
Also, can you imagine living with that stress of just like, I've got a jar with Frieza in it, I got a jar with Cell in it, I got a jar with Boo in it, and they're just like sitting on a shelf somewhere. You're just like, they could break at any point. And they'll remember me. Like, they'll only be thinking about what they want to do with me this entire time they're sitting in there. Like that's kind of a stressful life.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't solve the problem. It basically just puts a fucking egg timer on it. Like it I don't know. It feels almost inevitable. Like it might not happen in your lifetime, but it feels almost inevitable that they will get out at some point.
I mean, that's what happened with King Piccolo, right?
Yeah. Yep. He got trapped by Muto Ito, I think.
That sounds right. And he basically stayed trapped for, what, hundreds of years, I think?
I can't remember now.
A long time. I won't put a number on it. I won't make the Dragon Ball mistake of putting hard numbers on things that shouldn't have hard numbers.
Good point. But yeah, it was trapped for a while, then released, and then well, they tried to use it on Piccolo Jr. to trap him again, but actually, I think they tried to use it on King Piccolo. I think that's why Roshi died too. So yeah, the technique could kill you. I think there is that caveat in there too. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. It is very intense to use it. Yeah, okay, I did forget about that. So yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty happy with our choices. I actually like the fighter that you put together. I think it's a lot of fun. It honestly does give me like hit vibes the way that you kind of put it together, where it's like very singular focused. It knows what it wants to do. It's not mucking around like with silly techniques and you're choosing a very singular focus with some backup plans and some safety options to make sure that your opponent is defeated and you're in the safest state possible.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's been fun to see the different routes that we took, because while mine has some versatility in like mostly the teleportation more than anything, I think. It's very clearly designed with one fighting style and one goal in mind, and that's just defeating the other guy efficiently and effectively. Whereas I think that yours is more versatile, or would be more interesting it would certainly be more interesting to watch in a fight. I do like the ghost. I'm glad that you picked the ghost kamikaze, because I really like that technique, and it was right on the edge of making my list.
Yeah, it's instant transmission and ghost kamikaze are two techniques that they have such a high ceiling of what those techniques can allow you to do, and any kit with them gets like, it's a force multiplier. Like, you're just way stronger if you have either of those techniques in your kit. Like Four Witches is very specific. Like I really wanted to use it because it's very cool, and I started there and I said, all right, I love this technique because it's so weird. I'm going to try and build a kit that works around this because I really want to use this technique. So that was actually my starting point.
I had a strong feeling that you were going to pick something off the wall. Four Wishes was not what I was expecting at all.
Well, actually, I was kind of surprised. Like, Destructo Disc definitely wasn't something I pegged you to grab. Like I said, I've forgotten to really consider the solar flare, so I was glad that you picked it. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Hell yeah. But like instant transmission was like, that's awesome. Yeah, I can see you taking that. But the Destructo Disc was really, really the one that I never would have picked that for you in a million years. But it makes sense now that you explained it to me.
I mean, I basically went your boy Krillin's route, basically just giving him the instant transmission. Like, that's more or less the fighting style that I've got here.
I mean, what do they say? Mimicry is the highest form of flattery.
I mean, while Vegeta is my favorite, Krillin is high up there for me. So I like a lot of things that they've done with Krillin. I feel like he's just gotten the shaft, man. Like, I feel like they could do so much more with him.
He's a back burner character, but to give your boy Vegeta some credit, if I could pick lines of dialogue that my character would use, it would mostly be from Vegeta. His shit talk is just god tier.
Yeah. Maybe next time we'll do best 3 lines of shit talking. Oh, it'll just all be Vegeta.
We could just make an episode about Vegeta. You don't need to come up with some weird rules.
You know, I was trying to make it seem like I wasn't trying to make just a Vegeta episode, but now that you say we can.
God. All right. I think think that's about everything. Was there anything else you want to dive into?
No, I think that does it for me too. So I think that's going to be it for this episode of Instant Transmission, where we discuss everything Dragon Ball. This has been your host, Todd.
And Dayton.
Don't forget, we're on Patreon and Discord. If you want to help us Kaioken up to times 20, you can find us at patreon.com/ITDBpodcast. The Discord link will be in the episode description, but you can also find it and all of our other links at linktree/ITDBpodcast. Thank you all so much for your support. Be sure to join us next time as our power becomes maximum in Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan. Paragus and Broly, two Saiyan survivors of planet Vegeta's destruction, come seeking Prince Vegeta to rule over a newly anointed planet Vegeta. But not everything is as it seems with these mysterious Saiyans. Will Paragus try to backstab our Saiyan Prince? What kind of power does Broly have secreted away? How many push-ups and sit-ups did he do to get that physique? Find out next time. And to all our fellow Dragon Ball fans, stay safe out there, and remember to keep rocking the dragon.
Yeah, we'll double record. The second one should only be 15 or 20 minutes, and we can just fit them both in 57 minutes later.
It'll be fine.